Imagine being 22 years old, universally recognized as like the absolute best in the world at defense, and just walking into your boss's office and saying, keep the $50 million. Like, I don't want it.
Yeah, it sounds like complete fiction.
Right. Well, today, we are unpacking exactly why a generational talent just did exactly that, and what it tells us about the sheer obsessive price of winning in the modern NBA.
It really is the ultimate flex, I think. When you care more about the roster than your own bank account, I mean, you just completely change the dynamic of your franchise.
Welcome to the deep dive. Usually when we hit mid-July, the NBA enters this bizarre hibernation period.
Oh, yeah, the dog days.
Exactly. We're deep in the dog days of the offseason. The news cycle slows to an absolute crawl. But I mean, the silver lining is you step into a gym in Las Vegas for the Summer League, and suddenly you're watching the rawest, most electrifying young talent on the planet just going at each other.
Yeah, trying to prove they belong in the league. There's really nothing quite like it. It's unpolished, it's chaotic, and it's deeply revealing.
Right.
You get to see the actual psychological makeup of these rookies before the league, fully molds them.
Now, before we go any further,
Mm-hmm.
I know there is a massive elephant in the room. The Kawhi Leonard trade is currently on hold.
Yeah, the whole league is waiting on that.
We all know it, but let me be crystal clear. We are absolutely not going to talk about it today.
Thank goodness.
Right. We are putting a pin in that drama because there is just way too much actual basketball to discuss.
Completely agree. I mean, we can let the front offices sweat over the trade logistics while we focus on the floor.
So here is our mission for today's deep dive. We've got an action-packed agenda specifically tailored for you, the casual NBA fan. And especially if you happen to be a Bulls fan today, you are in for a treat.
Oh, they're going to love this.
We are going to evaluate the explosive performances of the top 4 draft picks, unpack Victor Wembanyama's shocking financial sacrifice that we just teased, and break down a literal physical altercation between former teammates Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro.
That was wild.
It was crazy. And then we'll check in on Jaylen Brown's massive fresh start in Philly.
It is a phenomenal slate. And honestly, there's a really compelling thread connecting all these stories today, which is the delicate and sometimes destructive chemistry of team building.
Let's pull on that thread right now, starting with the beauty of Summer League. We had a marquee matchup that had everyone buzzing, the Bulls versus the Grizzlies.
Caleb Wilson going head-to-head with Cam Boozer.
Yes. And look, as a Bulls fan, you have to be absolutely losing your mind with joy right now. Caleb Wilson drops 35 points, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals in his debut.
It was a huge statement. But it wasn't just the volume of points, It was how he got them.
Right.
He played with this sheer, undeniable kinetic force.
Yeah, but here is the stat that made my jaw drop. He went 7 for 11 from three-point range. I literally had to rub my eyes and check the box score twice.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
This is a kid who only made 7 three-pointers in his entire last season in college. Suddenly, he's out here looking like a splash brother. Like, how does that even happen?
Well, I mean, it speaks to the hidden work he put in during the pre-draft process, right? When scouts evaluate a player like Wilson, they look at the mechanics.
Okay.
In college, he was hesitant. His release was a bit slow, and he only took threes when he was, wide open and his feet were perfectly set. But in Vegas...
He's just letting it fly.
Exactly. He wasn't just catching and shooting. He was creating his own space off the dribble, hitting pull-ups with a fluid, accelerated release.
Wow.
Yeah, it showed an offensive polish that a lot of analysts frankly thought he was, years away from developing.
Okay, so the mechanics are vastly improved, but honestly, his stat line wasn't even the most impressive part of his night to me.
The attitude post-game?
Yes. The Bulls ended up losing that game 97-96. Caleb actually hit a clutch buzzer-beater 3 at the end, but they still fell short by 1 point. And when he sat down for the post-game presser, he looked furious.
Oh, he was seething.
I'm talking visceral anger. It was like watching a kid get an A+ on a brutal final exam, but being visibly furious that they missed the extra credit question.
That is a perfect analogy, and that anger is exactly what front offices are desperately searching for.
I mean, he immediately brought up his 6 turnovers and his failure to box out on rebounds.
Right.
He didn't even want to talk about the 35 points.
Right, and that attitude is the defining trait of what executives call a 1A franchise cornerstone.
Wait, pause right there. Let's explain that for the casual listener. What exactly makes someone a 1A versus just a really good player?
So think of it like this. Every team has stars, but a 1A is the absolute nucleus of the franchise. They are the bus driver, not a passenger.
Okay, I like that.
A 1A player dictates the entire culture and the emotional weather of the locker room. When Wilson went into the locker room, he actually apologized to his teammates for his turnovers.
Wow.
Yeah, he told the media, "I work harder than everybody else, and my goal was to come here and win." He views empty stats and a loss as a complete failure.
So they measure themselves entirely by the final score.
Exactly. Not their individual box score.
It's that, like, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan level of psychotic competitiveness, and he needed every ounce of it because on the other side of the court, Cam Boozer looked like he'd been playing in the NBA for a decade.
Boozer was a surgeon out there. He dropped 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists, and it just felt completely effortless.
Contrast that for me, because Wilson was this explosive highlight reel of emotion and crazy shots. What was Boozer doing differently?
Boozer didn't force a single action. He played a highly physical, incredibly fundamental game.
Just taking what the defense gave him.
Exactly. If they sacked off, he took the mid-range. If they pressed, he used his body to create angles to the rim. It was a masterclass in pacing. Wilson was the hurricane, but Boozer was the steady, undeniable foundation.
Okay, let's pivot to the other top pick showdown that had everyone talking, because the contrast there is just as wild. We had A.J. Debanta for the Wizards squaring off against Darren Peterson for the Jazz.
Right. A great matchup.
Now, Debanta drops 27 points. If you just look at the ESPN ticker, you think, wow, great debut. But the box score is a little deceiving, isn't it?
Highly deceiving. I mean, Debanta struggled immensely from the field. He went 0 for 5 from 3 and 2 for 13 outside the paint.
Wait, so how on earth do you score 27 points when you are bricking everything outside the paint?
Because his scoring floor is incredibly high.
Okay, explain scoring floor like I'm 5.
Basically, a player's scoring floor is the minimum number of points they are practically guaranteed to get on any given night, even when their shot is completely broken.
Ah, gotcha.
Debanta has a high floor because he is a master at drawing contact. He lives at the free throw line. He forces the referees to blow the whistle by just driving recklessly into the chest of the defenders.
So even on a terrible shooting night, he's walking away with 20-plus points just off free throws.
Right.
Okay, getting to the line is a great skill, obviously, but you can't rely on the whistle exclusively, especially in the playoffs when the refs swallow their whistles.
Exactly.
And I read in the scouting reports that people are worried about his flat jump shot.
Yeah.
Why is a flat shot such a mechanical death sentence in the NBA? Like, if it goes in sometimes, who cares how it looks?
Well, it comes down to basic geometry and physics. Imagine the hoop as a target, right?
Okay.
If you shoot the ball with a high arc, say a 45-degree angle, the ball is dropping down into the rim from above. The hoop is effectively a wide, welcoming circle.
Right.
But if you shoot a flat laser beam with very little arc, the ball is approaching the rim from the side. From that angle, the opening of the rim becomes this incredibly narrow oval.
Oh, wow, that makes total sense.
Yeah, you leave yourself zero margin for error. A high arc gives you a soft bounce. A flat shot just clangs violently off the iron.
So Debanta gets 27 points the ugly way. Meanwhile, Darren Peterson for the Jazz scores 24 points on 6 for 18 shooting.
Yeah.
Now, I am no math genius, but shooting 33% from the floor sounds like a terrible night.
It does.
Yet I'm hearing whispers that his performance was actually the more impressive of the two.
It absolutely was, and the context is everything here. From the opening tip, the Wizards' defense treated Peterson like he was prime LeBron James.
Really?
Yeah, they threw relentless double teams at him. They face-guarded him. They game planned specifically to make sure he couldn't breathe.
And he still impacted the game despite missing shots. How?
By utilizing what we call off-ball gravity.
Hold on, explain that one to the casual listener, too.
Gravity. Think of off-ball gravity like a magnet. Imagine Steph Curry running to the corner of the court without the ball.
Right, everyone panics.
Exactly. Even though he doesn't have the ball, two defenders are so terrified of him catching it and shooting that they physically follow him, leaving the rest of the court wide open for his teammates.
So that fear is the gravity.
Precisely. Peterson has it. Even when he was shooting poorly, the Wizards were terrified of him. Instead of panicking and forcing bad shots over double teams, Peterson calmly manipulated the floor.
So he used that defensive fear to drag defenders away from the play.
Right, creating wide-open layups for his teammates. It showed a maturity and a playmaking vision that Debanta, frankly, completely lacked in his debut.
So Peterson is doing the quiet, unselfish things to generate offense, Much like Caleb Wilson is doing the emotional leadership things to drive a winning culture.
Exactly.
And that perfectly transitions into a guy who just put his money, like literally millions of dollars, where his mouth is to guarantee his team can win. Let's talk about Victor Wembanyama.
Oh, man, this is truly one of the most remarkable contract negotiations in recent NBA history. It breaks all conventional wisdom.
The details are staggering. Wemby just signed a 5-year, $252 million extension with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, obviously, $250 million is a ridiculous amount of money. But he actually left a literal mountain of cash on the table.
He did. He opted to sign for the 25% rookie scale maximum instead of holding out for the 30% supermax escalators.
Which would have been what?
If he had taken the 30%, that contract would have been worth $303 million. He voluntarily gave up $51 million.
Okay, I have to push back here. Why would a 22-year-old coming off a unanimous Defensive Player of the Year season voluntarily say, no thanks, keep the $50 million. I don't care how much you love winning, that is generational wealth. What is the actual mechanic behind this decision?
It is entirely about surviving the new, incredibly strict NBA salary cap rules, specifically something called the aprons.
Right, I hear analysts throwing around the word apron all the time now. What does that actually mean for building a team?
So the NBA has a salary cap, right? Which is the limit on what a team can spend on its roster. In the past, rich owners could just blow past that cap, pay a luxury tax penalty, and keep signing great players.
Like the Warriors did for years.
Exactly. But the new collective bargaining agreement introduced these aprons. Think of them as hard lines drawn above the salary cap.
Like financial electric fences.
That's a great way to put it. If your team's total salary crosses the second apron, you don't just pay a tax, you get stripped of your tools to build a team.
Wait, really?
Yeah. You aren't allowed to trade first-round draft picks. You can't take back more salary in a trade than you send out. You can't sign bought-out veterans. It essentially freezes your roster in concrete. You are stuck.
Oh, wow. So if a team gets too expensive, they literally get their hands tied by the league.
Precisely. So Wemby and his representatives sat down with the Spurs front office and looked at the math. The Spurs have this incredible young core developing around him, specifically Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper. In a few years, those guys are going to need new, expensive contracts, too. If Wemby takes the $303 million supermax, it practically guarantees the Spurs will hit that second apron in the future.
Meaning they wouldn't be able to keep Castle and Harper or, like, sign any veteran shooters to help Wemby out.
Right. So by taking the 25% max instead, Wemby artificially lowered the team's total salary ceiling for the next half-decade.
That is just incredible.
He bought the Spurs the financial flexibility to afford high-level role players and keep his co-stars. He gave up $50 million in personal wealth to buy a better supporting cast.
It's the ultimate statement of, I am here for rings, not just the bag.
It is, and it requires a level of trust between the player and the front office that is incredibly rare in today's league.
So on one hand, you have Wemby sacrificing his own ego and bank account to build flawless team chemistry. But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, we have a duo whose chemistry just violently exploded right there in Las Vegas.
It really is the starkest contrast imaginable. We go from a masterclass in team building to a complete organizational breakdown.
Word broke that there was a physical altercation at a Vegas hotel practice court. Bam Adebayo literally struck his former Miami Heat teammate Bam-Herro in the face.
Yeah, and we are not talking about a private gym behind closed doors. This happened right in the middle of Summer League, in an open-air basketball space shared by multiple teams, executives, and media members.
And the initial report of what sparked this fight is just unbelievably petty. Apparently, after finally being traded away from Miami, Bam-Herro goes on social media and reposts a statistical graphic highlighting the league's worst mid-range shooters.
And guess who's prominently featured on that list?
Yeah, Adebayo.
Yep.
Now, hold on. I refuse to believe professional athletes are throwing actual closed-fist punches over a Twitter graphic about mid-range shooting percentages. There is zero chance this doesn't go deeper.
Oh, you were entirely correct to be skeptical. The tweet was just the match, The gasoline had been pouring onto the floor for 7 years.
What was the underlying resentment? Because from the outside, the Heat always talk about Heat culture and being this tight-knit brotherhood.
Well, the facade of Heat culture hid a very real, very toxic hierarchy in the locker room. Reports indicate that Bam-Herro, and previously Jimmy Butler before he left, harbored deep-seated resentment toward how the organization treated Bam Adebayo.
Really?
Yeah, Bam was viewed by the front office as the untouchable chosen one.
How so?
Bam was handed a massive max contract extension. He was given the team captaincy. He was traded like the undisputed franchise cornerstone.
While Tyler Hero was treated like what? The sacrificial lamb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every single summer, Tyler Herro's name was in trade rumors. If Kevin Durant was available, Herro was dangled. If Damian Lillard asked out, Herro was the bait.
Right.
Imagine winning Sixth Man of the Year, being the team's leading scorer for long stretches when Jimmy Butler was injured, and yet every time you open your phone, your front office is trying to ship you out of town.
That has to breed a toxic environment. Like, Hero feels like he is doing the heavy lifting offensively, but Bam is the one getting the max money, the untouchable status, and the captain title. All without ever proving he can be a #1 offensive option on a championship team.
Precisely. Herro felt he was producing, but being treated like an afterthought, while Bam was given the keys to the kingdom based on potential and defense. So when Herro finally gets traded, the muzzle comes off.
He lashes out on social media to publicly humiliate Bam's offensive game.
And Bam, who has probably been feeling this passive-aggressive energy from Herro for years, finally snaps when he sees the public disrespect.
Man.
Right. It's a sad, chaotic end to a 7-year run that did yield finals appearances, but clearly at a massive psychological cost to the players involved. It shows what happens when a front office protects one player's ego at the expense of another's security.
Okay, well, from a messy, violent breakup, let's look at a fresh start. Speaking of moving on, Jaylen Brown is officially turning the page on his Boston Celtics past, and it feels like a seismic shift for the league.
It absolutely is, and the visual evidence we got this week was quite striking.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown was photographed at the NBA Summer League in Vegas, holding up his brand new Philadelphia 76ers jersey, standing alongside his new head coach Nick Nurse and the Sixers front office.
Seeing him physically holding that jersey makes the theoretical finally feel real.
Right, because just to remind everyone, this was the blockbuster trade of the summer. The Celtics sent the 5-time All-Star Jaylen Brown to the Sixers in a massive exchange for Paul George and multiple draft picks. I mean, the fit in Philly just makes so much sense, right?
Oh, it changes the entire geometry of the Eastern Conference.
Well,
You put Jaylen Brown's elite two-way wing play next to Joel Embiid in the post and Tyrese Maxey's blistering speed on the perimeter.
it's scary.
The Sixers suddenly have a three-headed monster that balances perfectly. Brown gives them the rugged perimeter defense and secondary scoring they desperately lacked when Embiid gets double-teamed.
Yeah.
It visually and practically cements a massive power shift.
It really feels like the whole league is shifting right before our eyes. The old guard is changing jerseys, and these young rookies are coming in with a vengeance.
They are. And as we wrap up today's analysis, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder, kind of connecting everything we just broke down.
Okay.
We saw Caleb Wilson furiously beating himself up over missing a box out in a meaningless summer league game.